Hi, I am Vasu. Vasu is a nickname for Vasundhara. Based on the teachings of Sri Ramana Maharshi and Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, I would like to present to you this elaborate exposition on the following very important topic, which is your life is an interactive movie that you cannot rewind or fast forward. To begin with, let's see what sages say about what happens in one's life. They say that activities happen according to what is meant to happen, that is, according to one's prarabdha, that is, one's karma that is being expended in this life. According to prarabdha, say destiny, current life's happenings are predetermined. People's desires don't get fulfilled as they like, because if this were true, every person who wants to be a billionaire will become a billionaire. But we see that in life, this simply does not happen. Also, some people who are good and virtuous are seen suffering, while bad and cruel people seem to have a good life. Only prarabdha or destiny explains these paradoxes. The great sage Ramana Maharshi explains prarabdha in the following conversations. Someone asked this question: a person does something good, but he sometimes suffers pain even in his right activities. Another does something wicked, but is also happy. Why should it be so? Maharshi answered, pain or pleasure is the result of past karma and not of the present karma. Pain and pleasure alternate with each other. One must suffer or enjoy them patiently without being carried away by them. One must always try to hold on to the self. When one is active, one should not care for the results and must not be swayed by the pain or pleasure met with occasionally. He who is indifferent to pain or pleasure can alone be happy. To another person, Ramana said the following: make no effort either to work or to renounce work. Your effort is the bondage. What is bound to happen will happen. If you are destined to cease working, work cannot be had even if you hunt for it. If you are destined to work, you cannot leave it. You will be forced to engage in it. So, leave it to the higher power. You cannot renounce or hold as you choose. Again, in this regard, another time someone asks him, are only important events in a man's life, such as his main occupation or profession, predetermined, or are trifling acts in his life, such as taking a cup of water or moving from one place in the room to another, also predetermined? Ramana Maharshi answers, yes, everything is predetermined. What for then does the body come into existence? It is designed for doing the various things marked out for execution in this life. The whole program is chalked out. Yet another time, in one short sentence, Ramana Maharshi explains this: let us not pose as doers, but resign ourselves to the guiding power. Thus, so far, we saw Ramana Maharshi's teachings about prarabdha or predetermined life. Now, I would like to present the wisdom of Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj about this. Maharaj says to someone, there is only life. There is nobody who lives a life. The questioner says that we understand, yet constantly we make attempts to live our lives instead of just living. Making plans for the future seems to be a deep-rooted habit with us. Maharaj replies, whether you plan or don't, life goes on. But in life itself, a little world, the ego, arises in the mind, which indulges in fantasies and imagines itself dominating and controlling life. Life itself is desireless, but the false self wants to continue pleasantly. Therefore, it is always engaged in ensuring one's continuity. Life is unafraid and free. As long as you have the idea of influencing events, liberation is not for you. The very notion of doership, of being a cause, is bondage. So says Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj. So, from the knowledge from Ramana Maharshi and Nisargadatta Maharaj, we understand that life goes on by itself, irrespective of one's fantasies and imaginations. And this is what I mean when I say that your current life is a movie that you cannot rewind or fast forward. You can only view the movie as it plays out. The reason why I call this an interactive movie is because in life one can not only watch the movie of life but can also interact with the happenings in the movie. How does one interact with the movie of life? Let's explore the scenarios for this. Let's take a man and a woman. They wake up and see the world, the phenomena, and its happenings. In other words, they watch the movie. When the movie is played out in either of these people's lives, they have two options. They can either interact with the movie and its happenings, or they can just remain as a witness, watching the movie and its happenings. Let's now consider the first option and see what happens when people interact with the movie of their life. In this scenario, people identify themselves with the bodies and they think that they are performing all the activities and that they are the doers. They see the world according to their minds, so they view the world, its objects, and the people according to their likes and dislikes, loves and hates. Due to ignorance, they superimpose their imaginations and thoughts on the actual happenings of the world. At the same time, they interact with the world and superimpose their life's happenings on themselves and enjoy or suffer accordingly. When a happening in their lives coincides with what they desire, they think that they accomplished it and take it as their success. And when things don't go along with what they want, they take them as their failure. Thus, thinking themselves as doers, they enjoy or suffer in life. But life itself goes on as it is, as predetermined due to prarabdha. One thing people do when they interact with the movie of life is to react to what happens in their lives. They react to the actions and their results. However, reacting to the world's happenings creates new deep mental impressions called vasanas and generates new karma, which later gets added to the stored karma and is put in sequence to be expended in future lives. Thus, the cycle of birth and death is extended. Now let's look into the second option and see what happens when this man or woman does not interact with the movie of their life. In this option, knowing that what happens in life is due to prarabdha, that is, the predetermined current life, these people just watch the movie, but they don't interact with it. They understand the following things. They cannot rewind and go back to the past, and they cannot fast forward and go ahead to the future either. They cannot also change the present happenings by their will, but if one surrenders to the higher power, that may help to undo their destiny and thus leave them unaffected by what happens. The only real full freedom they have is to turn inward and know the real self. Thus, these people just witness the happenings pass by, but without reacting to them. By not reacting to the happenings and their results, new deep mental impressions or vasanas are not created, and new karma does not get generated. Thus, the cycle of birth and death is not extended. Furthermore, since they don't take on doership for the happenings, since they don't think they are the doers, they don't take on the successes or failures, enjoyment or suffering on themselves. They let the body act according to prarabdha, and they remain just as witnesses of their lives. They are calm, peaceful, unperturbed, mentally strong, and not affected by anything that happens in their lives. Regarding this, Ramana Maharshi says, the karma, action, which is disapproved is that which is done with the sense of doership. Do not leave karma, you cannot do so. Give up the sense of doership. Karma will go on automatically, or karma will drop away from you. Rather, be fixed in the self and act according to nature without the thought of doership. Then the results of action will not affect you. Do actions without caring for the result. Do not think that you are the doer. Dedicate the work to God. Regarding the same thing, Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj says as follows: just as a wheel turns around an axle, so must you be always at the axle in the center and not whirling at the periphery. You are the self, here and now. Leave the mind alone. Stand aware and unconcerned, and you will realize that to stand alert but detached, watching events come and go, is an aspect of your real nature. All you need is to keep quietly alert. Thus says Nisargadatta Maharaj. Therefore, when the movie is watched without interacting, the individuality, which is the cause of births and deaths, come to an end, and all the three karmas of the past, present, and future are all destroyed. Since the individual has disappeared, all the future movies of future lives have no purpose, and so they are erased. Only the current movie is played out. One question you may ask me now is, you said that you cannot rewind or fast forward the movie of life. But how about changing the current happenings of the movie of life? That is, how do we handle the sufferings that happen in the current life due to destiny? The answer is by surrender to the higher power. If one surrenders to the divine takes over the burden and gives peace. In this regard, I will present you a conversation that Ramana Maharshi had with a Maharani, an empress. She tells Maharshi, while struggling to speak, that she has everything but peace of mind. Maharshi tells her this: surrender and all will be well. Throw all the responsibility on God. Do not bear the burden yourself. What can destiny do to you then? Even partial surrender can undo destiny. Undoing the destiny could at least mean that one remains unaffected and unperturbed during the painful or unpleasant things that happen. Thus, through surrender, you can somewhat change the current happenings. Finally, the most important question that arises is there any free will at all for an individual? According to Ramana Maharshi, the only free will that an individual has is to turn within and realize the real, eternal, blissful self. Ramana's words about free will are as follows. Questioner: what responsibility, what free will does man have? Maharshi: as for freedom for man, he is always free not to identify himself with the body and not to be affected by the pleasures or pains consequent on the body's activities. Questioner: does man have any free will, or is everything in his life predestined and preordained? Maharshi: free will holds the field in association with individuality. As long as individuality lasts, so long there is free will. All the Shastras, scriptures, are based on this fact, and they advise directing the free will in the right channel. Find out to whom free will or destiny matters. Abide in it. Then these two are transcended. That is the only purpose of discussing these questions. To whom do these questions arise? Find out and be at peace. What Ramana Maharshi means by these words about free will with regard to the interactive movie is as follows. Any interaction with the movie of life is actually free will, but you can use this free will either to interact with what is happening in the movie of life and get entangled in the worldly whirlpool, or turn inward and realize the self and be blissful. The choice is yours. To summarize, based on the teachings of these two great sages, I conclude that life is an interactive movie that you cannot rewind or fast forward. You can surrender to the higher power and perhaps undo some destiny. Therefore, as a man or a woman, you have two choices. Either you can interact with the movie of life and get entangled in the whirlpool of happenings and go through pain and pleasure and thus be bound, or you can watch the movie without interacting, whether the happenings are good or bad, and be unperturbed and peaceful in life without being affected by the happenings and thus be free. Okay, now how do we practice this in day-to-day life? This is how. Regarding interacting with the world, you already know. You do that every minute of your waking state. But if you want to remain peaceful, watching all the events pass by without interacting with the world, start practicing that right now. Whatever happens, understand that it is meant to happen that way. Whether it is at the society level or the individual level, if good things happen or if things happen the way you want them to happen, enjoy them. But if at the society level, if there is a pandemic or some kind of a chaotic event or unpleasant happenings, understand that they will go on as predetermined. Problems will happen, solutions will happen. Watch them happen without getting attached to them. If you have a part to play in it, just do so, but without thinking that you are the doer. At the individual level, if there is a calamity, an illness, a bereavement, or some complex problem, understand that things will happen the way they are meant to happen. Do what you feel you have to do for the current situation, but understand that you are just a tool of the higher power. Do this from now onwards every chance you get, and you will see peace and happiness gradually unfolding in your life. If it becomes unbearable, surrender to a higher power or turn within and keenly inquire, "Who am I?" That will definitely bring you peace and calm in your mind. That is why Ramana Maharshi says, to inquire, "Who am I?" is the only remedy for all the ills of the world. It is also perfect bliss.